like, when we watch Ushaka and somebody's coming in with so much pride. I come on the direction of the queen. And it's just like, who the F is your queen? Like, what do you mean? Do you know who my king is,
Yeah.
The Sapiosexual Platter.
Do you feel like you're behind in your life, even though no one has ever said that you are? Do you find yourself trying to play catch up to people, to timelines, and to standards that you've never set? On this episode, we will be discussing this invisible pressure that we feel and whether at all we should be trying to play catch up. My name is Shatani Samalakai.
And I am Belsa Abo Ame.
Welcome to
The Sapiosexual Platter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I was thinking was such a good meme for this episode? That thing that we both shared, where it was like somebody sitting with another person, and then they were like, "Oh, do you ever feel behind?"
And it's like behind
what?
No, that is actually
Yeah.
Please insert Thabo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Behind who?
Behind who? Yeah. It's a shame because when I think about this topic, I feel more sad. I feel really sad because, at least from my foundation in the understanding spirituality, you understand that we're all expressions of the divine. And, the Christian lingo and terminology is always, God doesn't make mistakes, and that you are, designed uniquely the way that you are, and it's sad that we then succumb to the pressure to be something or somebody else, or like somebody else, or to live according or in the way that somebody else does things.
Yeah.
When that is not the nature of life, and that's not the way life is meant to be. We're all supposed to be shining in our different uniqueness. And the fact that we spend so much time trying to be so uniform, it's sad.
Yeah. I think there is like the whole aspect that you're sharing of the divine.
Yeah.
And the ideal. You know what's coming when I tilt my head like this.
I know. Go on.
So I know we're teachers. I know we're anointed in wisdom, and that's why we sit here before you guys. But let's remove the veil a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's a reality that we face.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. So
it's just sad. Sad, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to preface it with,
yeah,
it's hard. But yeah.
It is hard.
Let's get into it.
Where do you think it comes from?
Our own diminished worth. Yeah, lack of identity.
Yeah.
The real pressures of life.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us are a lot of us are in survival mode. So when you're in survival mode, there's no ability to create. And because there's no ability to create, then you look at the next person that is surviving.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, he's able to put food on the table by doing this. So let me also do that. You start comparing, you start trying to catch up. Just so at the very least we can all have food on the table, because that's what it is at this point.
Yeah.
It's not comparisons of grandness, It's not like I want her shining star. No, it's that person is able to put food on the table and do things that somebody at 30 should be able to do, somebody at 35.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that, so I feel a pressure. I feel like I'm behind,
Yeah.
because your peers are doing things that you can't, able to afford things that you can't, so I think those are some of the reasons that create that internal pressure to kind of catch up. I also think the third one is the media, of course, what we've been fed in terms of what are the ideals. And so when in your mind there's an imprint of what it means to be successful, what it looks like, how it must be, then of course there's a pressure. Like, I'm not successful yet. I don't have this. So so everything is a yet, until maybe you get to a place where you've mastered the things that society deems as successful. Before then, there's just an internal pressure to constantly perform so you can catch up. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I do agree with you that there is a sadness element to it, to like wanting to play catch up. But I'll just say that it's also just human nature.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just the order of nature. So more than like villainizing our need to play catch up, I'll just neutralize it to say it's just how we're wired. We have we all have that uniqueness in our divineness or divine expression. But fundamentally, because we're all human beings, there's certain things that are uniform. Because I heard you use the word uniform. There's certain things that are just uniform or general when it comes to being a human being. We all know that at a point we're babies, we're toddlers, and in order to be able to systematically gauge how we're evolving, there's certain milestones that are defined that typically when a child is between the ages of 12 months, they should be able, 8 to 12 months, they should be able to do this. When they get to 18 to 24 months, they should be able to do this. So because of how we are as human beings, we like to compactalize things and to classify certain things because it helps us have an ease when we interact with reality. That's just how the human mind is. So in our journey as human beings, we know like by a certain age, somebody reaches puberty. By a certain age, you should be in high school, in college. And then there would be those different circumstances or outcomes for certain people where you get to high school when you are 21 as opposed to 15. It's an anomaly, you know? So I think just because you are then not fitting into the uniformity of what is expected at this age, looking at the majority,
Yes.
that's where then you feel like because I haven't achieved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 by a certain age, therefore I must play catch up.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you that there is the said elements, but then there's just also just the human nature element of it all to say we're like sheep. You know how a herd of sheep likes to move together.
Yeah.
Human beings are that way. They like to systemize, they like to organize, they like to classify, and we classify so that we interact easily with nature. And when that doesn't happen, we're like, okay, maybe there's something odd with this child if they're not speaking by the age of 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the child starts speaking at the age of 8.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, okay. The child speaks, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's different levels to the conversation. So I like that you've added that element. I think your element is where all things being equal, you know, we're living in a healthy society and system. Of course, in that healthy society and system, you ought to, or it's ideal, looking at even biological factors and all these other factors, that you ought to have at least be able to master this and attained this and done that, even for your own survival. You know, it's not even just about the systems, but it's also just for your own survival. To say to human nature, it doesn't feel good when your peers are here and you are behind. There's a certain unity and a joy that comes with we're all collectively able to achieve this particular goal.
Yeah, and I will add to that to say that dissatisfaction that you feel when you realize your peers are here and you're not there is the innate feeling that cultivates us to seek growth.
Exactly.
Because without that indication or that discomfort, then it would be harder to inspire for certain things and to work towards
100%.
certain things. Yeah.
So I like that element. And then and where we are, and I guess our conversations are normally Africa relative to the West.
Yeah.
Is that we are playing catch up, but it's not an all things being equal. It's I don't even know what to call it. It's so wild, but it's essentially someone ruling by constantly introducing new standards that are difficult to attain. And just when you're about to, it's just a new standard is created, and a new standard is created. So it's that illusion. What do they call it? Is it
Dangling a carrot?
Dangling a carrot. I think that's what's happening with Africa.
Yeah.
Because every single year there's a new standard. EU said something new, African Union must follow. New laws all the time. So we're just constantly playing catch up. And it's like, are we ever going to catch up, you know?
Yeah.
Is there a point where countries in Africa become first world countries? Because by the time we
do we even want to become first world countries?
Yeah,
but I'm like, what is first
what
world
is first
country?
world? But from the looks of the way the system is and the way that the African kind of strives to be like the first world, by the time we get to what the first world is right now, the first world would have advanced to another stage.
Yeah.
So from the looks of things, I don't know if ever we're going to move out of this categorization, because as they're evolving, we're evolving.
Yeah.
And apparently the way we're evolving is that we're behind. There's a inherent inbuilt idea of we are not enough and we are catching up. And so we're constantly playing catch up, and there's a pressure. And I think there's something in that dynamic, as opposed to the dynamic you mentioned, is an unhealthy component that warrants this discussion.
Yeah.
So I think it's multi-layered, and should we be playing catch up in the context where somebody else is actually setting the standards?
What do you think should be done?
I think we shouldn't be playing catch up. I think
No, that's easier said than done. I mean, if I'm just like, we know.
no, but I think we need to have the discussion about why it's so unhealthy to strive for systems that aren't ours. Because there's people who don't mind it. There's people who, like I've talked about it before, you know, the friends we have that have traveled abroad. There's different types. There's people who travel abroad and they come back and they go, thank God, I love Botswana so much. It's so beautiful. And there's people who travel abroad and come back and they say, guys, we're so behind. We're so behind. Look at this. There's no this.
a Big Ben.
Inside
joke. She once triggered me. She went to London and she's like, oh my God, I get it why they colonized us. I was like, out with that spirit. Out. But she's right.
But so, and just when you think about the way that our governments are run, you know, the way that what we implant in our children as to what to dream about, to aspire for, it's all based on this imprint and this system that is outside of ourselves. Even our conversations, when we talk about competitiveness and we talk about, you know, what it means to be the ideal graduate, the ideal professional, everything is relative to a standard that is outside of us. And we're all constantly playing catch up. So there's never any satisfaction. It's like, wow, you've done well so locally. That's so great. But, you know, have you seen how artists in the UK or in America, do you know how they do things? And it's like, wow, I love your restaurant. It's so good. But, you know, at one time I went to Italy and this is what transpired. And like, I don't know about this, you know. Wow. Like, Botswana is such a great example of like democracy. This is so amazing. But, you know, you could really improve this area and improve this area so that it mirrors more like, you know, the American system, which is actually like this, like, I'm tired. Yeah, that's mine. That's and I don't know if people realize how subliminally we're geared towards that. I don't know if people recognize. I don't know if you recognize that sometimes your aspirations are exactly that because of an external source that you've allowed to infiltrate your mind. Sometimes you're projecting onto your children the standards of, you know, the Western world, the Eastern world, you know. And it's exhausting. I don't know if you realize that you're tired because of that. Yeah.
When I heard you talking, I was like, for me, the root cause of it all is a lack of pride. We don't have pride in our own ways, in our own systems. If anything, we are very self-hating. We're self-hating of our hair, of our identity, our skin. And it's quite unfortunate because if we had pride, like, and back to our conversation about when you went to England. It was...
I really didn't expect that to be a point of it. But yes, you're right. Go on. When I went to England.
When you went to England, it was an eye-opener because I remember when we had the conversation and I was like, this is literally what our kings back in the day...
This is what happened to our forefathers.
This is what happened to our forefathers. They went to England, they saw the Big Ben, they saw the Buckingham Palace, and they were like, oh my God, we need to do this, or we haven't achieved this. And there wasn't a pride when it comes to the mud houses that we had.
Yeah.
That there's actually a science with the mud houses. The fact that you can build a house with so much integrity from just mud, and there's a science behind it, and there's a system behind it.
And preservation, and it's taking into account our own way of living.
Yes,
nomadic.
and the things within our environment. And to say, yeah, I like the Big Ben, I like the Buckingham Palace. However, do you know that we can build a house with mud and actually just having that level of assertiveness and pride about our own ways?
Yeah.
You even mentioned in the last episode where you're like, when we watch Ushaka and somebody's coming in with so much pride. I come on the direction of the queen. And it's just like, who the F is your queen? Like, what do you mean? Do you know who my king is?
Yeah.
But you would find that there's a meekness about us that ends up, we end up succumbing to
Compromising.
other people's pride about where they come from.
Yeah.
I experienced it with Forbes. When Botswana hosted Forbes for 3 years, Forbes Under 30 for 3 years, I remember I met these German friends of mine, and they came in and they were like, everything is so slow. If we were in Frankfurt right now, I would be where's the transportation? Where's the cabs? And I remember just being with them, and I'm like, perhaps maybe you are in Botswana to experience the slowness.
Yeah.
If you guys are in Frankfurt and you're busy running and everybody's on cocaine, perhaps here we're just on nature.
Yeah. How about that?
How about just slowing down, and instead of creating that comparison of what's happening in your Western world and our world, how about you let go of the past and actually take into account that in the present moment,
You're in
Botswana.
Yeah.
And we take it light and easy here. And I realized that I was only able to answer that because of how proud I am of where I come from.
Yes.
But if it was somebody else with those same German friends of mine, and it would have been like, why is Botswana so slow? And we're so guilty of this as Botswana.
We are.
We'll be like, hey, it's so slow. And even just little subliminals that you speak of where we sort of encourage, when somebody is prestigious in Botswana, we refer to them as a white person, Lekgowa. We say, hey, you are Lekgowa, you're a white person. And it's meant to be a symbolism of status. We take it so lightly, but I'm like, that also communicates to the deep subconscious of parts of our minds that a white person is better than when we mentally compare them. So I'm like, we're going to have to start at that level of just cleaning up what we say, because there's a power to it, even if we say it as a joke. We're going to have to start cleaning up the phrases that we say.
Yeah, I think that should be like a national directive.
Yeah.
Seriously, I just think like somebody in government needs to be like, from now on,
Yeah.
stop calling people that you perceive higher than, or anybody that is assisting you, whatever. Like, it should be a crime to do that. I think so. If we're gonna start rebuilding the conscious mind of Botswana people, we have to be very deliberate. We have to be very what's the word? Aggressive, radical. That's the word I was looking for. Radical about it, to say, if we're now trying to inculcate a sense of pride, there's just certain things that shouldn't be legal. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be right to do that.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry.
And I just wonder, what is our vision as a continent? Because like, when I think about Nigeria has this term that says Nigeria no dey carry last. And you know what's so crazy? The King of England held a state visit for the president of Nigeria. And it was so grand. And in his speech in the end, he's like, Nigeria no dey carry last.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, the colonization of the white man has begun. And it's starting with Nigeria. That the King of England is saying to us, Nigeria no dey carry last. And I was like, yeah, it is that sense of pride with their culture. The nuances when it comes to how they express their clothes, having pride in wearing their cultural attires. Then you have, is it Cesar Tsakama, who said, a people without a culture is like a lost nation. Then you realize that fundamentally, because we've become so westernized in our culture, and that's because we've borrowed foreign systems, we're always trying to catch up to systems and cultures that are not of our own, and they're not innate in us.
Yeah.
So we're unable to sustain them.
We're able to develop them.
We're unable to develop them.
Yeah.
So when we want to then develop them, we have to go what? Go compare.
Go back.
Go and benchmark. Go and look what are they doing so that we can bring that
Here.
And I remember in 2010, when I went to university in England, the Botswana currency was stronger than the Chinese currency. In terms of development, Africa and China were at the same level. Africa was actually doing better than China. Fundamentally better than China. I'm in England, I'm studying, I'm still observing the different interactions in the world. And out of nowhere,
China
just went to the point where now China is sort of another colonial master in Africa.
Yeah.
Because of the rate of how they are given funding for different things, how they're developing so many different things, obviously at a benefit of something, because these things, there's no free lunch. Yeah. And it was so crazy for me because I was like, China used to look to Africa. Africa was actually just slightly doing better than China.
Yeah.
Then out of nowhere, these people started to say, let us play our own game. What are the Chinese people great at? What is our strength? Oh, we've got one of the highest populations in the world, similar to India. And it's like, okay, India's got 1 billion people, more than 1 billion people. China has more than 1 billion people. Then they look at the innate abilities and what is the Chinese person so great at? And it's like, oh, we're great at implementation, at mimicking and copying. And funny enough, we used to laugh at the Chinese.
Yeah, we used to.
Everything that was done by the Chinese was considered to be fake, subpar. And they were just simply building the foundation. Because now, guess what? Everything is made in China.
Yeah.
Including the luxury handbags. And we are buying them.
They always have been. But yeah, sure.
So it's so interesting now because you then realize that fundamentally, these people had to, at a point, say, we're always playing catch up to the Western world. And they were so intentional. They blocked out Western social media. They created their own social media. They blocked out certain channels and news and people having access to those things because they realize how deeply they infiltrate people's minds that they end up comparing to the Western culture and applying pressure into the Chinese system to be more Western-like because the West has a way of just selling itself and branding itself as the ideal. And now, even though the West would fight back at that and say, oh, it's dictatorship, it's against human rights, look at where it's gotten China. Now, I'm not saying that it's perfect, but now China has like ammunition in terms of it's no longer just begging. Because I think one thing about always playing a catch-up race is you always have to be going to beg for certain things because you don't have the economical sovereignty that can create power within you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole lecture. And you said it well. I don't even know what I'm supposed to add to that. But I think I see it happen, and I think I've spoken about it in several episodes. We play catch up even in our laws. You know, and laws are so important because a law governs the country.
Yeah.
You know, a law sets the tone, the culture, the conduct. And our laws are still borrowed.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Botswana is, I heard recently that we're on the verge of getting back on the gray list. And it's like, yo, we're always playing the game of the West.
And who decides this gray list? Like, who decides this gray list? Like, why would Europe one day just wake up and tell us, you know what, we're going to gray list?
Gray list.
Where is our gray list? Which gray list are we put in front of?
I think we should literally create, because that's what they do, you know, like we'll be saying it,
yeah.
But honestly, I swear, they sit in a room, they think about something like, what's a way that we can create difficulty, make it difficult for Africans to trade, and then they just, let's create a law, let's create these frameworks.
Yeah.
And then they just laugh in a room and it gets done. And I'm like, I just think we should be sitting here thinking about how do we just make it. Because don't hate the player, like make the game, right? If you're gonna make it difficult for me to achieve this, then how do I make it difficult for you to achieve that? At some point, we reach a deadlock.
Yeah.
And then we're able to now negotiate.
As peers.
As peers. That's how you gain power. And we can't gain power in an area where they have, because obviously they've developed the mechanisms of the law that we have now decided that as countries in Africa we're going to then take in, right? So we can't play the legal game.
Honestly, we
So
can't
we have
win
to-
at a race where the rules are not designed for you.
So now we have to then think about what's a game that they don't play in and create difficulty in that.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it'd be
And
like
a game that they really need.
something that they really need. You know what I mean? Guys, I promise you, this is how these conversations start. This is not this doesn't happen at a high level. It happened in a room where somebody in the West was like, I'm really having difficulty with this, and I don't like how these people are slowly gaining traction. You just think about even the migrant issues that are happening in the UK and in America with the borders and things like that. This is, them coming to a realization that the influx of these people coming in to our borders is creating competition. So how do we make it difficult? I know I'm gonna build, what is this, the wall?
Yeah,
that
the Mexico.
Trump wanted to build.
Yeah.
That's literally how those conversations are happening. So we also have to position ourselves in that way to say, how do we then make it difficult so that at some point we can negotiate as peers and have equality and, not constantly having to play catch up, because you can't win. And how am I actually realistic when you do the math of it? How are you actually going to catch up? You're going to need some miracle from God. And I don't even know if this qualifies in the realm of miracles of praying to God. Like, Lord, I pray that I catch up. I don't think it does. To be honest.
Lord, I pray that I catch up.
That can only be the prayer, no?
Yeah.
But how are you going to catch up to a system where they created the laws, you inherit the laws, or you take them in, and then you think one day we're going to be at the same level? At one day, we're going to be developing a law where Europe says, Botswana has recently come up with a very inspiring legislation. We just think that as the EU, we should really be looking at Botswana. How's that ever going to happen if all Botswana is always doing is waiting for the EU to come up with a law? And then only then do we start having the conversations. The conversations in this country are always happening because somebody externally came up with a system which we now have to all of a sudden consider.
Yeah.
When are we then the blueprint and the initiators and the authors of conversations that are taking place globally?
Honestly.
When does that happen? Yeah.
I just think it's just so intense because we would never win at a game that the rules were not created for us.
And designed with you in mind.
Yeah.
Designed with your success in mind.
Yeah, it was never designed with our success in
development.
mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we even get it wrong. We don't query certain things. We just end up adopting all these different systems. And it's when the education system was designed, did it take into account the Motswana person? When the legal system was designed, the Anglo-Saxon in England, was it taking into account?
Of course not.
The Motswana person? It wasn't. So, yeah, our forefathers made the mistakes that they made by adopting these systems without restructuring them to fit the framework of what works for us. But I think it's that's why I'm we blame colonialization for everything, and I am that person. But I'm we've gotten political sovereignty. Now it's time to literally work at our economical sovereignty, because I think a country that can't feed itself is not independent.
Yeah.
It's not independent if we always have to be reliant on other countries. So now to what you said, for me, that registers as geopolitical weight to say, if we are going to create rules that blacklist or grey list the Western world for the things that they do. And mind you, there is a lot of corruption that happens in the Western world,
There's
possibly
a
more
lot.
corruption
Not
than
possibly.
even Africa.
Even with grey listing, because grey listing has a lot to do with your monetary systems
Yes.
and your ability to create frameworks that don't where certain criminal activities can't permeate, particularly with trafficking, drugs, and things like that. And so grey listing is usually a signal that you haven't put in enough frameworks to ensure that when somebody wants or is thinking of engaging in criminal activities, the system you have can't detect those activities.
Yeah.
And so I think about the first world, which is like money laundering is on a whole other level. Think about the level of drug use in first of all, Botswana is only 2 million people.
Yeah.
And so when you think about like the population in Western countries, which far exceeds Botswana, and the level of drug use, in those countries, you cannot tell me that then Botswana gets on a grey list relative to even America. It's a math that for me just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But it is that the lack of geopolitical weight is the fact that we are not participating in a strong way in industries that create like the necessary economical exposure. Like right now, I'm like, what is that thing that Botswana has said, we're going to do this and the world needs it. The reason why Africa is where it's at is because we have a lot of raw material that we send out and come back as finished goods that we then import. And it's like, what about we just keep the raw materials and do like China and, try to manufacture and fail at it. But eventually 50 years down the line or 30 years down the line, we would have gotten somewhere. Even when you just look at Botswana, why can't Botswana wake up one day and just say, we are going to create the cheapest renewable energy that the world has ever seen. And then now when the wars are happening in those other countries, we won't have any issues, because the problem now where we are as African states is that when there's any disruption that takes place, we end up feeling it because we import too much. Our finished product in terms of the fuel, we're dependent on it from other countries. So we are just very economically vulnerable, that then when the powers that be are negotiating on certain things, the people that come to negotiate are those we know that we're going to get refined oil from so-and-so country, we're going to get energy from this country, we're going to get food from this country. So therefore, if you don't have those critical and strategic areas checked in or locked in to say we provide our own food, we have our own energy, we're manufacturing this, which is what the world needs, or these finished products. For as long as if we don't have that, we don't have economical sovereignty. So therefore, it influences the dynamics of how you even come to interact on a global scale, on an international scale, because the variables are against you. You are a beggar. You are economically dependent. You might stand and say we are Botswana as a country, but what is it that other countries critically need from us that when we say something, our voice would be felt? The reason why we can feel Russia from where it's at, or Iran, even though they've got nothing to do with us, is just the fact that we know we're getting oil from Russia. We know we're getting oil from Israel, Iran, those dynamics. So we feel it because then the oil prices go high because our fuel is coming from those countries. So I'm like, what is stopping Botswana from saying we have all the solar energy? Why can't we create the cheapest renewable energy in the world and export that, so that if anything happens, if they say, oh, we're warring and there's no oil, we know that at least we've got our cheap renewable energy. And I love that thing that the president said, the current President Boko, when he said we need to increase our oil refineries and the capacity beyond 9 million. But I would challenge leadership to say, how about we create the cheapest renewable energy instead of expanding the refineries or the reserves, rather. Instead of expanding the reserves, how about we actually just play the game that is more sustainable to say, we've got the solar, let's create solar farms and let's be just exporting this energy that we have. And I think it also just trickles down into different things. When we then get into manufacturing, we use that same energy. When we get into building our agricultural sovereignty, we use the same energy to grow the plants, the machinery that we're using. So it's so multi-layered, man. It's so multi-layered.
Yeah. I think also our vision needs to be a vision for the world as opposed to a vision of the country. Because I think that's how first world, east, west, that's how I think they're able to expand beyond. Is because when they're drawing up their visions, it's not we are creating for China. It's we're creating for the world, you know?
Yeah.
When, you know, the UK is governing, they're not just creating governance systems to govern themselves. They're like, we need to do it in such a way that this governance framework permeates the whole world. Democracy, all the nations must strive to be democratic, because that's what colonization did. It actually replaced our governance systems, which were largely monarch based, to now this democracy concept, you know. And so I think even in our visions, our challenge, because Vision 2036, right? It's a vision only.
I'm even tired of it.
No, but if you think about it, it's just
2036, like, stop it.
Yeah. So, and that's another thing. The vision should be much simpler than something that changes every 10 years, you know, 2016, 20. Okay, but the fact that I can't even just make it a one-liner, you know what I mean? What's a Motswana? What are we striving for? Who are we? And I think it's also quite okay to then channel the entire national energy towards that. Because I do think, like, the issue with Botswana is that everybody is, I understand the idea of, like, tapping into your talent and trying. But the fact that we're only 2 million people and all 2 million of us can kind of do whatever we want. Like, we can all just, I can decide I want to do law, I can decide. But law towards what? You know, it needs to be geared towards the one thing that we're currently developing.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I think that's a way to approach it, where in Israel, we know that, like, their big focus or priority is security, like national security and nuclear weapon and agriculture. And a lot of the people there learn in order to be able to contribute to the big vision of what we're defining ourselves as a country. China, it's manufacturing.
Yeah.
So everybody there is kind of focused on creating in that area. And obviously it helps in terms of the resources are now channeled towards that one vision, right? Yeah, so I just think what would help in just kind of identifying that niche that can set us apart and give us that competitive edge. I think it's okay. Like, look, we're trying to diversify. I was listening to the Minister Kenwendo recently, and she's talking about how we focus so much on just the one mineral, but Botswana actually has so many types of minerals. So for me, it's like easily that positions us as the country that can be the mining country of the world. And it's like, if that's the case, then all of us as citizens should be looking at how do we contribute to expanding the mining base, if that makes any sense.
The value chain.
That's
what Masisi was doing.
Yeah, the value chain, and just everybody focus. All the family conversations needs to be, how do we get into mining? And we're the lawyer. So, like, obviously then it shifts my mind to, okay, Shatani, you need to think beyond employment law. You need to be looking at mining law so that you can support that.
Yeah.
You know, the people in media, how do we start telling the story, expanding? Like, everybody just kind of like, guys, we're getting into mining, everybody.
But then I would say, yes, Botswana has different minerals that are great at mining. The question is, do they have the value that can increase our geopolitical weight?
Absolutely.
No, because Ghana, when you look at diamonds now.
No, it's not diamonds.
I know it's not diamonds. I'm just giving an example as the mineral that we focused on. Because for me, I feel like the areas that we choose need to be highly strategic. They shouldn't just be based on this is what we have a lot of, because we can have a lot of something.
Of course.
But other countries can have a lot of, we have a lot of copper. Other countries
We also have a lot of
copper.
oil. Do you know that?
I don't know about the oil. I know
That's
that
what
they've
I'm
been searching
saying.
for the oil.
The explorations so far.
Yeah.
From the conversation I was listening to, and apparently that was on old data.
Mm-hmm.
So there hasn't even been new research or there's no new data, but they were speaking off of the findings of previous data about our base as a country in terms of what can come out of Botswana. And a lot of it maybe I'm supporting your point to say you're right. Mm-hmm. It's not just, we just want to export every mineral there is. It's obviously being strategic about what can bring the most value. But
thank you.
Yes.
Because I'm just saying, Hore, it's one thing to say we've got mines and we've got minerals and we're going to mine them.
Yeah.
But Africa has been mining for years now. Africa has had a lot of minerals for many years.
Yeah, but
the issue has been the value, because we take the things that we've mined and we export them outside. Then we import them back as finished goods. So beyond mining, it's more for me, how do we manufacture things that are in high demand in the world?
But a lot of it has to do with skill, right? Botswana could do the refining of the diamonds, but the skill base isn't there. That's why you then export, and that's because in terms of
I get that, and that's my point exactly. Let's
so
increase the skill base. Let's work at that, because Africa is where it's at, because we have the raw minerals.
I was speaking to your point about value.
Okay.
It's like the stone is valuable, just that we don't have the skill set to then up its value. Mm-hmm. Do you get what I mean? Because the cycle is that it's the raw materials which are then exported and they come back more valuable.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I don't know. Your point about value for me is kind of like, then why bother if at all it's not valuable? I'm like, it is valuable, just that we haven't created the base in the country so that we can extract the most value out of it.
So what's your point? Because I didn't say it's not valuable. I'm just saying that as a country, if we're going to increase our political weight and our economical sovereignty, we need to be strategic.
Yes.
And strategy is in the finished product.
Yes.
To say it's one thing that we have all the farms that we have and all the land that we have. Mm. We could be one of the leading countries in agriculture, but we are not, because we're unable to, on a mass, produce the finished product, which is the food that people need. 100%. It's one thing to have the minerals that we have, but if for many years we've had the minerals that we have, but we're unable to make it into a strategic product that the rest of the world would need from us.
Yes.
So my point is just to say it's not enough to say we have an array of minerals. Mm-hmm. We've always had an array of minerals.
Yeah.
Right now, what we need is to create finished goods that people need from us, instead of us always having to import all the goods that we end up having.
Yeah, so I was trying to say that the reason why we haven't been able to extract value in the way that you're saying is because when we were strategizing in terms of the skills that Botswana needs to amass, they weren't skills that would then contribute to that. So inevitably, you end up then having to outsource that, because there isn't a focus around when we are building skill. You're supposed to then get into agriculture. You're then supposed to get into mining. You can study whatever you want and you can do whatever you want.
I get that, but what's your point?
The point is,
get out, like, because I know that we don't have the skill sets to bring the minerals from point A to the finished goods.
Yes.
So, like, how is it differing or dissenting to whatever point
it's not
I
a descent.
Made? Okay.
Yeah, it's not a descent.
Okay.
It's just to say China has focused.
Yeah.
We need to focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't that a catch-up game?
No.
No, I'm just saying, because you're saying China's focus. Let's try to catch up with China's focus.
No.
I'm just joking.
I'm saying let's focus. Mm-hmm. So if it's okay, let's not even try find, because sometimes we spend so much time trying to find different things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes let's just work with what we already have.
Yeah.
I say mining only because we did so well with the diamonds. Just that of the current situation, it's not. The current situation isn't looking great, right? But in terms of the concept, in terms of the system that's in place, It's one that can be replicated and refined to look better.
Yeah.
And then, just basically enhanced. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to say, like, we have a lot of minerals, but there hasn't been any focus towards them, no energy around them.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can just establish ourselves as the mining country of the world. Not only do we have the raw materials, but we also have the secondary industry that refines them and then sells them.
Yeah.
But that needs to be a collective vision of Botswana.
Yeah.
And then we just decide, re halalo, re sustainable mining, re hatela mining,
Yeah.
le hatela di raw materials, we change and then we sell to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but for me, that would be secondary because I believe that primarily we need to look at what sustains us as Botswana.
Food?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Because we have been mining the diamonds for many years. So it's like, notwithstanding that we've been mining the diamonds and exporting them, we still don't have economical sovereignty. Right now, if there's a crisis that is to happen in the world, we're going to look at our fuel reserves. We're going to look at our food. The basics. Let's start with the basics that keeps the lights on. We need fuel for our cars. We need fuel at home to cook our food and different things. Gas, right? We need food to actually eat and sustain ourselves. We need medicine. So that's why I'm like, we need like the key strategic areas that focus on the sustenance of the Motswana person.
Yeah.
The independence. We have the political independence. Let us create the economical independence.
Yeah.
And it starts with certain basics that we use on a daily basis. Then after we tackle the basics, which would be the energy. And that's why I went to the renewable energy to say, how can all houses in Botswana be able to light themselves and operate with low or cheap energy, right? How can we be able to grow our own food? How can we sustain our lives? Then after we can sustain our lives without being disrupted by what happens external to our country, then we can get into a secondary level to say, we've got the minerals, we've got the mining, let's focus on that. Because now if we take our attention to, we are the mining company, we are the mining company, whatever, but we can't even feed ourselves. We can't even sustain ourselves to the point where the president has to call us to order. Do you guys know the reserves of the country only can accommodate 9 million worth of fuel? So if this fuel is to finish, if there's a crisis in Russia or Iran, that means that we would be unable to drive our cars. The factories that we have would be unable to function. The everyday at home would be unable to be sustained because you don't have gas. So therefore, let's look at the basic and the strategic and the critical areas.
Yeah.
Then after we look at these critical areas and we build independence onto them, can we then say, let's expand into other areas? Because then it's always going to be a catch-up game with, we're focusing on all these other things. Yes, we have the mining, which I agree is fundamentally great. But I'm like, now for me, it is quite crazy that we can't feed ourselves as a nation. And a nation or an economy that can't feed itself is not independent.
Yeah.
It is not.
I agree with the sequencing. I agree with it that we start first with the obvious, which is, how we should eat and all of that.
And the foundation.
And the foundation.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, that's how we begin to take ourselves out of the shackles of always constantly having to catch up, And so I just think it's time that the government just makes a bold stance around that.
Yeah.
I think I would be bold enough to say in schools right now, to the extent that we have this, crises with unemployment, I think half of students admitted to all tertiary institutions should all be studying something related to where Botswana is going, to the vision. So if we're saying our vision is food security, then it stands and makes sense that, okay, guys, it's food security. The curriculum then fits everything food security related. The value chain of food security.
Yeah.
So that half of the students at UB should be studying something that we know is eventually going to lead to them contributing to the food security value chain. If it's mining, then the other half, should be doing everything related to mining. And that way, students leave school and the first thing they do is have a job in the value chain of the thing that Botswana is creating. Because right now, I just think we're just too scattered in our mindset, and we're so surprised by the outcome. Because I'm like, yeah, half of you are doing things which are not only redundant, but even if they were useful, they're not useful for the context of where Botswana is at and where Botswana should be prioritizing its energy. Yeah.
I'll say also, in addition to what you're saying, we need to know who we are as Botswana. We need to know what is in our blood and what lineage we come from.
Yeah.
Because in as much as sometimes we have the mineral resources that we have, I don't know if we come from a bloodline of miners. So back to our conversation that we said, let's go back to what is ingrained in us. As the son of the soil, what type of son are you to the soil of Botswana? Because now with mining, you would have found that a lot of the machinery is imported. All of it is imported. The skill set is imported. So even that we're trying to specialize in industries that we don't really understand the systems of how they function in itself is a catch-up game. So I'm like, as Botswana, we need to look at ourselves and say, what comes natural to us? We are farmers of cattle. Maybe should we not really try to hone into this importation of beef as we have and actually magnify to a certain level, since that it just comes natural to us that
Exporting of beef, yeah.
Yes, every family has a farm of sorts in the country. We have been people of horticulture. Should we not be farming maybe because it comes easier to us? Let's go back to the skill sets and the things that we do should come from Botswana Barona. Only then can we thrive. What is the spiritual essence of a Botswana? What is the bloodline of a Botswana? And what things come natural to us as Botswana? And focus on that. And then other things, obviously, we would go into them naturally. But at the core level, let's just specialize and master what comes natural to us.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am Belsa Abo Ame.
I am Shatani Somalakai.
And you've been watching
The Sapiosexual Platter.